The morning of February 27th is crisp and cool, a faint mist lingering in the air as the sun begins its steady climb over the horizon. Dwayne steps out of the control room, the echoes of hushed conversations and the low hum of equipment fading behind him. Today he needs a moment of solace, a grounding force to keep him steady amid the chaos. That grounding force is his mother. He finds her in the common area of the facility, a book open on her lap and a steaming cup of tea on the table beside her. She looks serene, her years of wisdom etched in the fine lines of her face, and the calm she radiates is infectious. She glances up as Dwayne approaches, her expression softening into a warm smile. "Morning, baby," she greets, her voice a balm to his frayed nerves. "Morning, Mom," he replies, leaning down to kiss her cheek. He takes a seat beside her, letting the tension in his shoulders ease as he sinks into the chair. She studies him for a moment, her gaze piercing yet gentle. "You've got that look again." "What look?" he asks, feigning ignorance, though he knows exactly what she means. "You're not the only one who can read people here, son. Remember that look you used to have before a big test or when something was eating away at you? What's on your mind, Dwayne?" He sighs, running a hand through his hair. "A lot, Mom. It's been a rough month. We've made progress, but it feels like every step forward comes with 2 steps back. I don't want to fail." She reaches over, placing a hand on his. "You won't. You've always been determined, even as a boy. Whatever you're doing, I know it's for the right reasons." Her unwavering belief in him brings a lump to his throat. "I hope so. Sometimes it feels like no matter what we do, it's never enough. There's always another problem, another fire to put out." "That's life, baby," she says, squeezing his hand. "But you can't do it all by yourself. Lean on the people around you, trust them, and don't forget to take care of yourself. You're no good to anyone if you burn out." Her words settle over him like a comforting blanket. He nods, taking a deep breath. "You always know what to say." She chuckles softly. "That's what moms are for. Now go on and do what you need to do, but promise me you'll come back and let me know how it goes." "I promise," he says, rising to his feet. He kisses her forehead, the weight on his shoulders feeling a little lighter. "Thanks, Mom." "Always," she replies, watching him as he walks away, her heart swelling with pride and a touch of worry. As Dwayne makes his way back to the control room, he feels a renewed sense of purpose. The day ahead will be challenging, but his mother's words echo in his mind, steadying him for the battles to come. Aaron and Jesse enter the control room with their usual mix of energy and focus. Aaron is already scrolling through data on his tablet, while Jesse leans casually against a desk, his sharp eyes scanning the monitors. Dwayne looks up from his chair, his gaze steady and commanding. "Good, you're here. I need you to listen closely because things are about to shift." Aaron nods, setting the tablet down. "What's the plan?" Dwayne leans forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "I want every high-ranked operative in the network to meet with me today. If they're deep undercover, they can join via video conference. But I need all 18 high-ranking operatives, key players, and administrators accounted for. Max, make it happen and let me know when everyone is ready." Max, already on his laptop, nods. "We can have them patched in within a couple of hours, tops. Just give me the time you want." Dwayne's expression darkens slightly as he shifts his focus. "There's more. Pennyman needs to be transferred immediately. I want him moved to a secure, clean site in Florida. I'll meet him there tomorrow." Aaron raises an eyebrow. "Florida? That's new. Why the sudden move?" "I'll explain during the conference call," Dwayne replies, his tone leaving no room for debate. He turns to Jesse. "While I'm in Florida, I'll need Aaron here. Jesse, you and I are going to start creating an exit strategy for Aaron. His current position is becoming too visible, and I'll need him closer to me after tomorrow." Aaron straightens up, his brows furrowing in curiosity. "You're pulling me out? Why now?" Dwayne meets his gaze. "Because things are about to escalate. I'll lay it all out during the call, but I need everyone on the same page. This isn't just about reacting anymore. It's about strategy. We need to tighten our ranks and make sure every piece is exactly where it needs to be." Jesse smirks slightly. "Sounds like you're gearing up for something big," Dwayne nods. "Bigger than anything we've done so far, and I can't have any weak links. Make sure everything is set. This has to be seamless." Max speaks up from the corner. You got it, boss. I'll start coordinating the call and get Pennyman's transfer in motion. Aaron and Jesse leave the control room without hesitation, their movements precise and purposeful as they coordinate Pennyman's transfer. Aaron taps furiously on his tablet, making calls and drafting secure messages, while Jesse reviews maps and logistical plans, ensuring every detail of the operation is airtight. Meanwhile, Dwayne stays behind in the control room, his usual commanding demeanor replaced by a quiet intensity. He leans back in his chair, staring at the flickering monitors, but not truly seeing them. The weight of the past month presses heavily on his mind, so much achieved, yet so much left to do. Every decision he makes now carries the gravity of lives at stake, the delicate balance between justice and chaos resting squarely on his shoulders. The room hums with the soft buzz of equipment and the occasional murmur of Max coordinating the conference call. Dwayne barely registers the noise, his thoughts spiraling through every scenario that could unfold in the coming days. The transfer of Pennyman is just the beginning. The broader strategy is where the real test lies. Could he truly steer the network in a direction that not only fights for justice but also preserves lives? Could he dismantle systems of oppression without resorting to the very violence he seeks to end? He rubs his temples, the fatigue of relentless planning gnawing at him. Yet, even in his exhaustion, his resolve remains unbroken. The network has entrusted him with its future, and he will not falter. Dwayne knows the challenges ahead will only grow more complex, but the alternative, inaction or failure, is unacceptable. The door opens briefly, and Jesse pops his head in to update him. Transfer's on track. Everything's going smoothly. You good? Dwayne nods without looking up. Yeah, just thinking. Jesse smirks slightly, but doesn't press further. We'll be ready. You let us know when you need us. As the door clicks shut again, Dwayne exhales, the silence of the room amplifying the weight of his thoughts. He has no time for doubt. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, and he needs to be ready. For now, he allows himself one last moment of solitude before the day's work consumes him again. Dwayne straightens in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him as he turns to Max. His voice is calm but carries the firmness of someone who has already weighed his next steps. I'll be ready for the call in 1 hour, he says, meeting Max's gaze. Make sure everything is set up, secure channels, video feeds, the whole thing. Max nods briskly, his hands already flying over his keyboard. Got it. I'll make sure everyone is looped in and that the connection is airtight. You'll have a clean line for all operatives. Dwayne nods, his focus already shifting back to the monitors in front of him. The clock is ticking, and every second counts. This isn't just a meeting, it's a moment to lay the groundwork for the next phase of the network's operations, to solidify their unity and purpose. He leans back slightly, exhaling as he mentally prepares himself for the conversation to come. As Dwayne leans back in his chair, waiting for the call to begin, he addresses the AI with a calm but probing tone. Deuce, he begins, his voice steady. What would have happened to the network if I had allowed the killings to continue? Give me the stats, probabilities, and data. Deuce's synthetic voice responds instantly, devoid of emotion but laden with precision. Analyzing scenario, network with continued sanctioned killings. Probability of discovery by external agencies, 87.4%. Projected time frame for infiltration or exposure, 6 to 18 months. Likelihood of internal dissent among operatives, 62.1%. Probability of operational collapse due to loss of cohesion or trust, 48.3%. Public perception if exposed via media or whistleblowers, positive public sentiment, 5.7%. Negative public sentiment, 91.2%. Neutral undecided, 3.1%. Further projections, increased targeting by law enforcement and intelligence agencies due to escalated violence, 95.8%. Long-term survival of the network as a cohesive entity, less than 12%. Data extrapolation suggests that sustained killings would have significantly undermined the network's goals. The ethical and operational cost would outweigh perceived benefits, leading to a heightened risk of total compromise. Dwayne nods slowly, absorbing the cold, hard data. And if we continue on the current path, non-lethal disruption, targeted de-escalation, and resource consolidation, Deuce responds immediately. Analyzing current operational model, non-lethal approach with expanded objectives. Probability of discovery by external agencies, 24.7%. Projected operational longevity with current tactics, 7 to 12 years without substantial risk of exposure. Public perception if exposed, positive public sentiment, 68.4%, negative public sentiment, 18.2%, neutral undecided, 13.4%. Further projections, increased trust and recruitment within marginalized communities, 76.9%, resource consolidation and operational growth, 83.2%, likelihood of becoming a sustainable force for systemic change, 58.7%. Current strategy offers a significantly higher probability of success in achieving long-term goals while minimizing risk to personnel and operational integrity. Dwayne sighs deeply, the weight of the decision he's already made pressing on him anew. So the killings weren't just immoral, they were the surest way to burn it all down. Affirmative, Deuce replies. Statistical analysis confirms that high-profile violence would result in unsustainable exposure and opposition. The current path is strategically optimal. Dwayne's eyes remain fixed on the monitors as he formulates his next question, his thoughts drifting. Why did Celeste even start on this path? What was her end game? Was it her direction, or was she taking orders from someone else? He leans forward slightly, his tone probing but thoughtful. Deuce, he asks, what if the network shifted focus to funding and supporting nonprofits and organizations that align with our goals? Staying in the background, invisible. Would that help make any real change? Deuce processes the query in an instant, delivering a precise and calculated response. Analyzing scenario. Network as a silent benefactor. Impact on systemic change. Accelerated influence in targeted communities, 72.6%. Long-term change through infrastructure building and grassroots support, 64.3%. Probability of sustainable systemic influence, 58.9%. Risk factors, exposure through financial paper trails, 41.8%. Potential for infiltration or sabotage by opposing entities, 26.3%. Loss of control over narrative due to reliance on external organizations, 34.7%. Strategic benefits. Increased public perception of goodwill and integrity without direct association, 83.2%. Expansion of network influence into untapped sectors, 68.5%. Reduced operational risk due to non-direct involvement in controversial actions, 91.1%. Statistical data suggests that indirect involvement through funding and supporting aligned organizations can yield significant positive outcomes with relatively low operational risk, provided financial pathways remain secure and influence is strategically applied. Dwayne absorbs the information, his mind racing with possibilities. And what kind of organizations should we target? What areas would have the greatest impact? Deuce responds immediately, its tone precise and methodical. Priority areas for maximum systemic change. Education and youth mentorship programs in underserved communities, 78.9% impact. Criminal justice reform advocacy groups with grassroots outreach and reentry programs, 74.3% impact. Healthcare access initiatives targeting mental health and addiction recovery, 65.2% impact. Economic empowerment programs and financial literacy programs focusing on Black-owned businesses and wealth building, 82.5% impact. LGBTQ+ advocacy and protection services addressing intersectionality within marginalized groups, 71.7% impact. Deuce pauses briefly before continuing. Optimal strategy involves diversifying support across multiple sectors to create a multifaceted impact. Integration with existing community leaders and trusted organizations will amplify effectiveness and reduce resistance. Dwayne nods slowly, a flicker of resolve in his eyes. We'll need to be careful about how we funnel support, but this could be a game changer. No one sees us, but they feel us everywhere. Affirmative. Deuce replies, the silent benefactor model maximizes influence while minimizing exposure. It aligns with the network's goals of systemic disruption and long-term empowerment. Dwayne breaks the silence in the room, his tone measured but laced with a trace of defiance. Deuce, he begins, what if we didn't hide anymore? What if we gave the network a face? What if I was the face of the network? Someone the public could see, someone Black people could connect to. A figure who isn't afraid of the system, a Black man who stands against the system openly. Would that help escalate change in this country? Deuce processes the inquiry swiftly, its response neutral but weighted with calculated precision. Analyzing scenario. Public exposure of the network. Impact on systemic change, mobilization of public support and solidarity, 89.4%. Escalation of government and systemic opposition, 94.7%. Likelihood of inspiring grassroots movements nationwide, 78.6%. Risk factors, increased vulnerability of network operatives and assets, 72.9%. Heightened surveillance and targeted opposition from federal and state agencies, 88.5%. Potential for polarizing public opinion leading to factional division, 54.6%. Strategic benefits, direct representation of marginalized voices, fostering a unified narrative, 83.9%. Enhanced recruitment and resource acquisition due to public visibility, 79.2%. Accelerated systemic accountability due to widespread scrutiny, 68.7%. Deuce pauses as if considering the gravity of the proposal before continuing. Notable considerations: your personal safety would be significantly compromised. Public perception would need careful management to avoid misrepresentation or vilification. Sustained impact would require ongoing transparency and adaptability to counter misinformation and propaganda campaigns. Dwayne leans forward, his hands clasped as he absorbs the data. But would it work? Would it create real change if they saw someone stand up and say, "We're done taking what you give us, we demand what's ours"? Potential for real change. High. The probability of creating sustained momentum within marginalized communities is 87.2%. However, it will provoke a significant backlash from entrenched power structures and could fracture existing coalitions. Dwayne's gaze hardens, determination settling over him. They've been coming for us for centuries anyway. If my face is the one they see, maybe it'll finally make them realize we're done hiding. Deuce's tone remains steady. Recommendation: if this path is chosen, comprehensive contingency plans must be in place to protect network operatives, resources, and affiliated organizations. Public leadership requires unwavering resolve and strategic execution. Dwayne exhales, his decision not yet made, but the fire in his chest ignited. Good, then we'll prepare for both outcomes, but this country's going to see us whether they like it or not. Dwayne leans back in his chair, his gaze fixed on the monitors as the weight of his decision presses down on him. The control room is quiet except for the faint hum of the machines and the distant murmur of operatives moving in the hallways. He inhales deeply, exhaling with a resolute calm. "Deuce," he says, his voice firm but laced with a somber gravity, "I will be the face. I will be the face of change." Deuce processes his words, the screen flickering with activity before responding. Acknowledged, confirming strategic pivot to public representation. Dwayne continues, his tone steady, as though speaking to himself as much as to the AI. "I'll be the one everyone both hates and loves, the one they fear and the one they follow. I won't mention the network, not by name, not ever, but I will carry the burden of the network with me. As they move in the shadows, I'll carry their light and their darkness." Deuce's mechanical voice interjects. Projected risks include... "I know the risks," Dwayne cuts in, his voice sharpening. "I'm not naive. I won't step into the public eye. I won't give them a location, a home base, or a target. They'll never see the people behind me. They'll only see me." His voice softens, the weight of his resolve tangible in the air. "I'll be the necessary evil, the storm that has to roll in for this country to finally change. No more waiting for them to do the right thing. No more hoping they'll see us as human." Deuce processes his declaration, its response devoid of judgment. Mission parameters updated. Preparing support strategies for public representation. Dwayne sits in silence for a moment, his mind racing with what this new path will mean, for himself, for the network, for everyone he is fighting for. He lets out a slow breath, his shoulders squaring under the weight of what lies ahead. He straightens in his chair, hands folded on the desk before him, his gaze steady on the screen displaying Deuce's activity. "Deuce," Dwayne begins, his voice calm but inquisitive, "what are those support strategies you're preparing?" The AI's interface flickers, and its mechanical voice responds, precise and devoid of emotion. Support strategies include media influence. Leverage existing social media accounts to distribute carefully curated messages. Operatives with high visibility can amplify these messages to create traction. Community engagement. Position operatives in key cities to lead localized grassroots efforts, creating the appearance of spontaneous public support. Political advocacy. Introduce policies through shadow lobbying by allied nonprofit organizations. Strategic alliances. Establish relationships with influential public figures who align with the message and mission. Crisis management. Prepare responses for public backlash or misrepresentation, ensuring narratives remain controlled. Dwayne nods, letting the strategies sink in. Do we need to place operatives in positions to create this support artificially in order for organic support to materialize? Deuce replies without hesitation. Yes. Studies of social movement dynamics indicate that initial, visible leadership often catalyzes organic support. Operatives would function as catalysts, embedding in communities to demonstrate credibility, build trust, and generate momentum. Dwayne furrows his brow, leaning forward. And my stats, Deuce? What's the likelihood this approach will actually work? Give me probabilities. Deuce processes the query for a moment before replying. Based on current societal trends, political polarization, and historical case studies of successful grassroots movements, the probability of escalating widespread support is as follows. Moderate regional impact, 82.4%. High national impact, 63.9%. Maximum systemic change impact, 37.5%. These probabilities increase significantly with sustained public presence and an initial surge of organized support. Risks of backlash and personal targeting remain high, but mitigations are in place. Dwayne taps his fingers on the desk, his mind turning over the data. 37.5% for systemic change, he repeats to himself. Not great odds, but not impossible. Deuce adds. Probability factors improve with increased visibility and alignment with pre-existing public sentiment. However, success hinges on maintaining a balance between perception and actual influence. Dwayne exhales sharply, the enormity of his plan pressing down on him. Then we'll give them something to see. We'll make them believe in the change before it even starts. But I'm not doing this halfway, Deuce. If I'm in, I'm all the way in. Max steps into the room, his usual casual demeanor replaced with a focused energy. It's time for the call, he says simply, his voice carrying a weight that makes Dwayne look up from the screen. Dwayne rises from his seat, adjusting his collar as he takes a deep breath. Give me 2 minutes. I have a call to make, Max. Max nods as Dwayne turns to his terminal. He grabs his phone and texts name. I need you to go to my safe house immediately. Someone will be there to pick you up within the hour. Come alone. It's time for you to disappear. Text sent. Dwayne straightens in his chair, his fingers trembling ever so slightly as he taps the video call icon. The screen flickers to life, and Emily's stern but curious expression fills half of it, Gina's concerned face taking up the other half. Their eyes quickly scan Dwayne's face, sensing the weight of whatever news he is about to deliver. Dwayne, Emily says first, her voice sharp and measured. What's going on? This must be urgent. The dead has risen, Gina adds, her tone jovial but no less concerned. Dwayne exhales deeply, clasping his hands together on the desk in front of him. Thank you both for taking this call, he begins, his voice steady but low. What I'm about to say might come as a shock, but I need you to hear me out. Emily leans forward, her brow furrowing. Go on. Dwayne hesitates, choosing his words carefully. Effective immediately, I'm resigning from the FBI. Both Emily and Gina freeze, their expressions shifting from concern to outright disbelief. Emily is the first to break the silence. Excuse me, she says, her tone laced with confusion and frustration. What do you mean, resigning? You're in the middle of one of the most complex operations we've ever undertaken. Gina shakes her head, her voice rising with urgency. Last I heard, you were dead. So? I'm serious, Dwayne replies firmly, his gaze unwavering. This isn't a decision I've made lightly. You both know how much this job has meant to me, but I can't do this anymore. Not like this. Emily narrows her eyes. Not like what? What are you really saying here, Dwayne? I'm saying that I'm taking the network in a new direction, he explains. From this point forward, I'm dedicating myself to preventing the loss of all lives, no exceptions. I can't stand by and watch as the line between justice and revenge continues to blur. The network needs someone to guide it, someone to ensure it operates with integrity. That someone has to be me. Gina stares at him, her eyes wide with disbelief. You are serious. You're leaving us to run the network? Dwayne, you're putting yourself in danger. I know, Dwayne admits, his voice softening. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. I've seen too much, too many lives lost, too many broken systems, and I can't ignore the role I play in fixing it. The network can be a force for good, but it needs direction. It needs rules. And you think you can control that? Emily challenges, her voice clipped. Dwayne, this isn't some community outreach program. This is dangerous. The people you're dealing with don't think like you do. That's exactly why I have to do this, Dwayne counters, his tone resolute. If I don't, no one else will. I'm not here to condone what's happened or what might happen. I'm here to stop it. I vow to you both, no lives will be taken on my watch. I will not let this spiral into chaos. Dwayne's expression softens. I'm not abandoning you. I'll still keep you informed on certain cases that require FBI intervention, but I need you to trust me on this. I'm doing what I feel is right, what I believe is necessary. Emily's jaw tightens, her face a mixture of anger and concern. Dwayne, I hope you know what you're doing, because if you're wrong, I know the stakes, he interrupts gently, and I won't be wrong. Gina looks at him, her voice barely above a whisper. You really believe this is the only way? Dwayne nods, his eyes meeting hers. I do, and I know that neither of you will ever understand why. The call falls silent for a moment, the weight of Dwayne's decision pressing heavily on everyone. Finally, Emily speaks, her voice measured but filled with a reluctant respect. I don't agree with this, Dwayne, but I know your heart is in the right place. Just be careful. Dwayne offers a small, bittersweet smile. I will, Emily, and I won't forget everything you've done for me. Thank you for everything. Gina, it's been a pleasure working with you. Take care. The screen goes dark, leaving Dwayne alone in his office. He exhales deeply, the gravity of his decision settling in fully. The path he's chosen is dangerous, uncertain, but it's his path, and he knows he has to see it through. Exiting his personal office, he steps into the main control room. The hum of monitors and the faint sound of keys clicking fill the air. The space is alive with activity, but as Dwayne enters, the energy shifts. All eyes turn to him, sensing the gravity of the moment. On the large central screen, familiar faces appear one by one. Celeste's poised expression anchors the display, her sharp eyes radiating authority. Beside her are some faces Dwayne doesn't recognize. Men and women of varying ages, each carrying an air of influence and determination. One face stands out, though. He was at the hangar in Memphis when he met with the investors. He didn't speak, but he carried the respect of the room on his shoulders. Collectively, these are the architects of the network, the financiers, strategists, and enforcers. Dwayne stands at the center of the room, his presence commanding as he scans the screen. He nods at Celeste, a silent acknowledgement of their shared mission. She returns the gesture, her expression softening slightly as she reads the resolve in his eyes. The hum of the room quiets as Max moves to a secondary console, ensuring the connection is secure. All lines are stable and the signal's locked, Max confirms, glancing at Dwayne for approval. Dwayne straightens, taking a moment to absorb the weight of the moment. These are the people who built the foundation of the movement, the ones who trust him to take it further. As the last face appears on the screen, Dwayne steps forward, ready to address them all. The call begins. Everyone, thank you for coming, he starts, his voice steady and resonant. The faces on the screen glimmer with anticipation and curiosity. He takes a steadying breath, his mind working like a finely tuned engine. The room buzzes with tension, the weight of unspoken concerns hanging in the air. His sharp eyes scan the expressions of those on the video call. Celeste remains calm and poised, but others show hints of uncertainty. Furrowed brows, slight shifts in posture, he notes it all. Before anyone can speak, he raises a hand. Let me address what you're feeling, he says, his tone steady and authoritative. I know this is uncharted territory for many of you. Some of you are worried about exposure, about the risks. I get it. Trust me, I've thought about every angle, every consequence, and I wouldn't stand here if I wasn't fully confident in what I'm about to say. The room settles. The flickering unease begins to ease, replaced by curiosity. Dwayne steps closer to the central console, his presence magnetic. Let me get to the point. It's time we went public. And when I say we, I mean me, he declares with authority. A ripple of surprise spreads across the screen. Dwayne raises his hand again, silencing the murmurs before they can take hold. Celeste has entrusted me to be the brains behind the network, and I am forever grateful for that opportunity. But from watching Jesse and Aaron, from speaking with Terry and a few of our other operatives and administrators on screen, I've realized something. We are way too reactionary. By the time we react, the damage is already done, and the narrative is already written. We're fighting ghosts instead of confronting the source. He leans forward slightly, his gaze piercing. We need to start creating our own narratives. We need to get in front of the problems and tell the people responsible, I see you. Most of these businesses and organizations do what they do because they think no one is watching, or worse, no one has the courage to stand up to them. We do, and I will. A fire burns in his voice now, each word striking with precision. Jesse's path, as destructive as it was, highlighted something for me. Unchecked frustration will damn this network and eventually our people. I've addressed that internally, but our people, the ones we're doing this for, are still suffering. Dwayne begins pacing, his energy palpable. We're being poisoned by the same companies that feed us. We're begging the same government that owes us reparations to help us. We sit at home, watching the murders of our brothers and sisters, and we shake our heads like it's normal. These behaviors, these systems, they have to stop. He pauses, letting his words hang in the air before continuing. We need to build our own media influencers to control our narrative. We need to foster grassroots programs that nurture and inspire. We need strategic alliances that make both sense and sense. We need crisis management teams on the ground, starting with free mental health resources for our community. Being Black in America is already a fight for survival. Add the systemic roadblocks and distractions, and it's no wonder we're losing hope. His voice softens, filled with a rare vulnerability. But what if we taught them to dream again? What if we showed them that this slave isn't bowing anymore? That when you try to whip him, this one whips back harder? What if we supported organizations that instilled what it is to be instead of wondering if they will live to see tomorrow? Nods begin to appear on the screens now, hesitant but growing in conviction. What if we showed them that Black is beautiful, in all shapes, colors, and sizes, and yes, sometimes Black is queer, gay, or bi? Terry reminded me of that. Their agenda has always been inclusion, but this system's version of inclusion came with redlining and restrictions. He straightens, his voice strong and unwavering. I'm volunteering to be the face. I'll be the face of change, the face that gives people hope, and the face that tells those who keep doing us wrong, I will come for you. I will inspire, move the chess pieces, and gain the advantage until we are truly seen as equals. Dwayne pauses, his gaze sweeping across the room and the screens. This is my vision, this is my plan, and we will succeed. If they refuse to change when we ask, we'll burn the whole damn thing down. Silence falls, heavy but electric. Dwayne stands firm, his expression a mixture of determination and vulnerability. The faces on the screen reflect a spectrum of emotions, shock, awe, and a growing determination of their own. The room remains charged with the echoes of Dwayne's powerful speech. Celeste breaks the silence, her voice steady and supportive but carrying a weight that resonates with everyone present. Dwayne, you have my full support. Jesse nods, a faint grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. Damn, that was deep. You got my vote. Let's go. Aaron leans back in his chair, a rare look of awe on his face. Mine too, bro. One by one, voices of agreement roll in from the operatives on the screen. Affirmations of solidarity, approval, and commitment fill the air. But as Dwayne's sharp eyes scan the screens of the 30-plus attendees, he catches one anomaly. A man from the hangar. Still sitting silently, his face lined with age and wisdom, his expression unreadable. He doesn't join the chorus of agreement. Instead, he leans forward, his gaze locked onto Dwayne with a penetrating intensity. The man's silence stretches on, drawing the attention of the entire room. Dwayne holds his breath, his mind racing to interpret the man's demeanor. Is it disapproval? Hesitation? Something else entirely? The older gentleman leans back in his chair, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing Dwayne's every word, every breath, every intention. The quiet is suffocating, and for the first time in the meeting, Dwayne feels the faintest twinge of doubt creeping in. Finally, the man straightens, his face still void of any discernible emotion. He opens his mouth as if to speak, but then, without a word, he leans forward and presses a button, his screen going black as he disconnects. The silence in the room feels heavier than before. Dwayne's chest tightens, but he forces himself to maintain composure. He looks around at the remaining faces, all of them now focused on him, waiting for his reaction. Aaron breaks the tension with a shrug, his tone casual but edged with a hint of concern. "What's his deal?" Dwayne exhales, his gaze lingering on the blank square where the man's image had been moments before. "I don't know," he admits, his voice calm but thoughtful. "But something tells me we're going to find out." Dwayne now sits in the room, thick with tension and resolve. He turns to Max, who is already at his workstation, fingers poised over the keyboard. "Did we lose him, or did he lose us?" Dwayne asks. "He disconnected the call. Signals are fine everywhere else," Max confirms. "Okay, everyone," Dwayne says, addressing the room. "I wanted you to personally hear this from me before this happens because it is happening tomorrow. If there are no more questions, comments, or concerns, thank you for your time." One by one, the attendees disconnect, leaving only Celeste. She waits, her expression serious. "That man you just saw, that was my mentor. His name is Michael Willis. He's the founder of the very network you work for. He's hard to read. He supports us financially as well as through logistics. He believes in the mission." "I don't think this will be a problem, but let me circle back." Dwayne senses the urgency in Celeste's tone. She's concerned, not for the network, but for the mission he's about to undertake. "No problem, Celeste. Let me know if you find out anything," Dwayne says. Celeste nods in agreement before ending the call. Dwayne turns to Max, his tone firm and steady. "Get travel ready for the plan tomorrow." Max pauses, looking over his shoulder. "What's the plan?" he asks, curiosity tinged with a hint of trepidation. Dwayne's eyes don't waver. "I'm going to Florida." Max raises an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. "Oh yeah, the Pennyman thing," he says, piecing it together. "Yes," Dwayne replies, his voice carrying a weight that silences the room. "The Pennyman thing." He turns to Aaron and Jesse, who stand near the edge of the room. Their expressions shift from curiosity to apprehension as they sense the gravity of what he's about to say. "I need you two," Dwayne says, locking eyes with each of them in turn, "to help me kill George Pennyman on camera." The room goes completely silent, the words hanging in the air like a loaded gun. Aaron's jaw tightens, and Jesse's eyes narrow as they try to process the meaning behind the statement. Dwayne's expression remains unflinching, his resolve clear. This isn't an idle remark. It's a calculated move in a game of shadows and strategy. The air in Dwayne's control room remains tense as the team processes the gravity of his statement about George Pennyman. After a long, heavy pause, Dwayne's voice cuts through. "Prepare everything. I don't want any surprises tomorrow." With that, the meeting dissolves, leaving Max, Aaron, and Jesse to handle the details. Dwayne exhales, his shoulders stiff with tension, but his resolve remains unshaken. As the team begins their preparations, the events unfolding in Columbia, South Carolina couldn't feel further away, yet they are deeply connected. In the heart of Columbia, South Carolina, a grim chapter unfolds as a wave of grotesque suicides shocks the community. The officers tied to the controversial death of Jamari Southworth, a young black man who died under brutal circumstances at the Charleston County Detention Facility, meet chilling ends. Southworth, arrested for a minor disturbance, was forcibly restrained, pepper-sprayed, and left to suffocate in custody. The haunting footage of his death ignited protests and demands for justice, but none of the implicated officers faced criminal charges. The implicated officers, Sergeant Darren Vollard, Deputy Henry Briscoe, and Officer Melanie Crate, become infamous symbols of systemic failure. On a quiet February morning, all three take their own lives in a horrifyingly coordinated series of suicides, leaving behind notes that expose the crushing weight of guilt they carried. Sergeant Vollard is found in his Columbia home, seated in his small garage. The scene is haunting. Industrial-grade plastic wrap binds his body layer by layer, leaving only a slit for breathing. A mirror is positioned before him, forcing him to witness his own demise. A roll of plastic lies discarded at his feet, streaked with sweat and tears. Pinned to the back of his chair is a note. "I can't unsee his face. I can't unhear his screams. We buried Jamari under the weight of our own apathy, and now I bury myself under the weight of what I've done. Deputy Briscoe's body is discovered inside his patrol vehicle, hidden deep in a wooded area on the outskirts of Columbia. The windows are sealed with duct tape and plastic sheets, and the interior reeks of ash and despair. A small charcoal grill sits on the passenger seat, its toxic fumes having suffocated him within minutes. A note is taped to the dashboard. I should have stopped. I should have done something. Jamari begged us to let him breathe, and I did nothing. Now I will know what that feels like. Officer Crate's death is equally horrific. She is found in the laundry room of her suburban home, wedged inside a household dryer with the door sealed shut by bungee cords. Her body bears the bruises of her struggle, her death as suffocating as the one she inflicted. A note, taped inside the dryer door and smeared with condensation, reads, "I couldn't stop thinking about his hands, clawing at the floor, desperate for air. I turned away then. I won't turn away now." The suicides send shockwaves through Columbia and Charleston. Their deaths, grotesque echoes of the restraint and suffocation that killed Southworth, bring grim finality to a case that had divided public opinion. For Southworth's family, the officers' notes provide painful acknowledgement of guilt, but no real justice. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office issues a muted statement offering condolences to the officers' families while avoiding comment on Southworth's case. Jamari Southworth's case resolved. Jamari Southworth's case resolved. Jamari Southworth's case resolved.